Hello, curious minds. Welcome to this new intellectual journey. Today, we're going to explore a concept that dominates our digital lives, a promise that has been sold to us as the ultimate expression of fairness and opportunity in the internet age. A world where supposedly only talent and effort will get you to the top. You've been told that if you work hard, create valuable content, and stay authentic, success will follow. Likes, followers, influence, monetization. This is the grand promise of digital meritocracy. The idea that anyone from anywhere can triumph based solely on their merit. But is that really the case? Think about it for a moment. We live in an era of apparent democratization. You have a camera in your pocket, a platform for your voice, and access to a global audience. The dream seems within reach. However, behind this gleaming facade lies a much more complex and often unfair structure. The key question we need to ask ourselves isn't whether we have the opportunity to compete, but who sets the rules of that competition? Who is the real referee in this digital coliseum where we all fight for attention? The answer isn't as simple as the audience or the best content. The true power, the one that defines success and failure, lies in something invisible, silent, and omnipresent. It's not a person or a committee. It's code. Today, we're going to unravel the truth about digital meritocracy and reveal the price you might be paying without even knowing it. First, let's understand the guardian of this supposed meritocracy, the algorithm. It's presented to us as a neutral tool, a simple content organizer, a computer program designed to show us what interests us most. Sounds logical and efficient, right? But its function is much more profound. In reality, the algorithm isn't optimized to find the best content in an artistic or intellectual sense. It's designed for one thing only: to keep your attention on the platform for as long as possible. Its ultimate goal isn't your cultural satisfaction, but the maximization of your screen time. This means the algorithm doesn't reward quality, it rewards retention capability. It favors content that generates strong reactions, be it surprise, anger, or controversy, because those emotions keep us hooked. Viral success isn't synonymous with merit, but with compatibility with this retention system. So the first crack in the myth of meritocracy appears here. Your success doesn't depend solely on your talent, but on your ability to create content that pleases this invisible judge. You have to learn to speak its language, to play its game, often sacrificing your original vision in the process. But the situation becomes even more complex. Algorithms aren't created in a vacuum. They are designed by humans within corporations with specific economic interests. And like all human creations, they are full of biases, invisible prejudices that replicate on a massive and terrifying scale. Studies on online behavior show that algorithms can amplify existing societal biases. They can favor certain types of appearance, certain accents, certain topics, while making others invisible, creating a false image of what is popular or desirable. This isn't meritocracy, it's a digital echo of old inequalities. Now let's talk about the human cost. To even have a chance in this system, we're told we must be constant, omnipresent. We must feed the algorithmic beast relentlessly, post daily, interact, analyze metrics. This has given rise to a phenomenon psychologists call the toxic hustle culture. Hustle culture is the glorification of exhaustion. The idea that you must sacrifice your sleep, your mental health, and your relationships on the altar of digital success. It's sold to us as a badge of honor, proof of our commitment. But in reality, it's a form of self-exploitation. Burnout, that extreme physical and mental exhaustion, has become a silent epidemic among content creators. The pressure to maintain relevance in a system that can forget you in a day is immense. The algorithm never rests, and therefore we feel compelled to never rest either. Moreover, this system forces us to quantify ourselves. We turn our lives, our passions, and our identity into a set of data points. How many likes? How many followers? What's my engagement rate? We stop being people and become profiles, personal brands that must be managed and optimized. This constant quantification of our worth is psychologically devastating. Our self-esteem becomes dependent on the validation of an impersonal and volatile system. One day you're viral and the next invisible. This emotional roller coaster is a direct path to anxiety and depression. And here we arrive at the core of the issue, the most uncomfortable truth of digital meritocracy. In this system, who truly defines success? Do you define it? Or does the platform you work for, often for free, hoping to be rewarded by its algorithm? Success is defined by the metrics the platform considers valuable. And these metrics are designed to benefit the platform, not necessarily the creator. They reward you for keeping people within their ecosystem, for generating data they can monetize, for creating content that fills their servers. This is the big twist, the secret that holds the whole edifice together. In the attention economy, if you're not paying for the product, you're not the customer, you are the product. Your content, your time, your attention, your data, it's all packaged and sold to the real customers, the advertisers. Digital meritocracy thus functions as a glittering facade for a value extraction system. They give us the illusion of opportunity, the gamification of success through likes and followers, so that we keep producing the raw material that feeds their economic empires. We are workers in a global digital factory. I'm not saying talent and effort don't matter at all. Of course they do, but they're only one part of the equation, and often not the most important part. Luck, algorithmic bias, and the ability to adapt to the system's rules play a much larger role than we like to admit. The real danger of blindly believing in digital meritocracy is that it leads us to internalize failure. If success is purely a matter of merit, then failure is proof of our inadequacy. We don't blame the unfair system or the biased algorithm, we blame ourselves. This self-blame is paralyzing. It leads us to strive harder, to sacrifice more, to dive even deeper into toxic hustle culture, chasing a carrot that the system itself constantly pulls away. It's a cycle of exhaustion and disappointment designed to keep us on the hamster wheel. So what can we do? Are we condemned to be pawns in this digital game? Not necessarily. The first and most powerful step is awareness. Understanding the true nature of the system we operate in is fundamental to navigating it in a healthier and more strategic way. We must begin to redefine success on our own terms, not on the terms imposed by the platform. Success can be a genuine connection with a small community, the satisfaction of creating something authentic, or simply the act of expressing yourself without the pressure of virality. It's crucial to develop a more critical relationship with metrics. Likes and followers are data points. They are not a measure of your worth as a person or a creator. Learning to dissociate your self-esteem from these fluctuating numbers is an act of rebellion and self-care in today's digital environment. Next time you see someone succeeding online, ask yourself what's behind that image. Ask yourself about the invisible cost, the hours of unpaid labor, the psychological pressure, and the dance they've had to perform with the algorithm to get there. Reality is always more complex. Digital meritocracy, in its current form, is a convenient myth. A myth that benefits tech platforms by motivating millions of people to generate free content, keeping their ecosystems vibrant and profitable. It's a powerful narrative, but it's one we must question. Ultimately, the price we pay for pursuing this version of success isn't just our time or effort. It's our autonomy. It's our ability to define what is valuable, what is beautiful, what is important, outside the parameters set by a handful of tech corporations. This isn't a call to abandon the digital world, but to inhabit it in a more conscious and deliberate way. It's a call to support the creators we love in ways that go beyond a simple like to build communities beyond metrics, and to remember that behind every profile, there's a human being. Let's remember that the algorithm is not a god. It's a tool, and like any tool, it can be questioned, modified, and ultimately, we can choose how and how much we let it influence our lives and aspirations. The power of awareness is the first step to reclaiming control. The initial promise was that the internet would free us, that it would give everyone a voice. But real-world power structures are incredibly resilient and have found ways to replicate themselves in the digital space. Meritocracy became the perfect alibi to hide these new forms of control. The current system fosters homogeneity. As everyone tries to please the same algorithm, content tends to converge on proven formats, themes, and styles. True originality, the kind that challenges conventions, is often punished by the system because it's less predictable and harder for the machine to categorize. Let's think about the creator economy. It's sold to us as the ultimate freedom, being your own boss. However, many creators find themselves in a more precarious position than a traditional worker. They have no fixed salary, no health insurance, no vacations. Their livelihood depends on the benevolence of a fickle algorithm. Algorithmic transparency then becomes a crucial demand. If our lives and careers depend on these systems, don't we have a right to know how they work? To understand the rules of the game we're forced to play? Currently, we operate almost blindly, trying to guess what the black box wants. Furthermore, digital meritocracy completely ignores each individual's starting point. Someone with economic resources, free time, and a pre-existing network of contacts doesn't compete on equal terms with someone who has to work another job and care for their family. The playing field isn't level. The system also creates fierce and often toxic competition among creators themselves. Instead of fostering collaboration, it positions us as rivals in a zero-sum game for a scarce resource: audience attention. We're pushed to see our peers as obstacles on our path to success. The solution isn't individual, it's collective. We need more conversations about the ethics of algorithms. We need to demand that platforms take responsibility for the social and mental impact they generate. And as users, we need to be more conscious of how our behavior feeds this system. Every time you choose to interact with deep and meaningful content, Even if it's not the most viral, you're casting a vote. You're sending a signal to the algorithm and the platform about what you truly value. Change, though slow, begins with these individual choices multiplied by millions. The price of success defined by others is the loss of oneself. The incessant pursuit of external validation empties us, turning us into an echo of trends instead of an original voice. The true victory is creating from a place of authenticity, regardless of whether the algorithm chooses to reward it or not. This dynamic extends beyond content creators. It affects anyone who uses social media. We constantly compare ourselves to idealized and algorithmically favored versions of others, creating an epidemic of dissatisfaction with our own lives, which seem mediocre in comparison. Dopamine, the neurotransmitter of pleasure and reward, is the currency these platforms play with. Every notification is a small hit of dopamine that conditions us to come back for more. We are being trained at a neurological level to participate in the system that exploits us. Digital anthropologists point out that we are creating a culture of constant performance. We feel the need to stage our lives for an invisible audience, to curate every moment to be share-worthy. The distinction between lived life and performed life becomes increasingly blurred. The philosophical concept of authenticity is in crisis. Is it possible to be authentic when every action is mediated by the possibility of public reception and algorithmic evaluation? Or do we become actors playing the role of ourselves, awaiting public approval? The final irony is that the internet, the tool that promised to connect humanity, often isolates us. We spend hours interacting with profiles and metrics while neglecting the real, unquantifiable human connections right in front of us. It's the great paradox of digital connection. Digital meritocracy is, in essence, a form of gamification of social and professional life. It transforms existence into a game with points, levels, and rewards. But in this game, the house, meaning the platform, always wins. The rules are designed to ensure its benefit above all else. The language we use gives it away. We talk about gaining followers, hacking the algorithm, beating the competition. It's a language of conquest and conflict, not of expression and connection. This mindset exhausts us and pulls us away from the original purpose for which many of us began creating. We must foster a healthier digital ecology. This involves cultivating smaller, safer online spaces, supporting alternative and ethical platforms if possible, and above all, practicing conscious disconnection as a form of resistance. Protecting our minds is protecting our freedom. So next time you feel pressured to post, to follow a trend, to optimize your life for the algorithm, pause, breathe, and ask yourself, who am I really doing this for? For myself or for the machine? The answer to that question can change everything. The future of creativity and human connection on the internet depends on our ability to see beyond the seductive yet false promise of digital meritocracy. It depends on valuing depth over virality, community over audience, and authenticity over optimization. Uniformity is the death of creativity. When everyone pursues the same metrics of success, the digital ecosystem becomes impoverished. It fills with copies and repeated formulas. True innovation happens on the margins, in the spaces the algorithm hasn't yet learned to quantify and control. The system trains us to be predictable. A predictable creator is a valuable asset for a platform because their audience is easy to package and sell to advertisers. Being unpredictable, evolving, and changing as an artist is an act of sabotage against this business model. Let's consider cultural memory. What will the future remember about our era? The profound works that took time to mature, or the viral memes that lasted a day? The algorithm, with its bias towards immediacy, is actively shaping the historical archive of our civilization. And it's a superficial one. The pressure of the personal brand forces us to petrify our identity. We have to choose a niche, a style, a personality, and stick to it to be recognizable. This limits our growth as human beings who are multifaceted and constantly changing. We put ourselves into gilded cages that we ourselves construct. Sociologist Zygmunt Bauman spoke of liquid modernity, an era of constant change and uncertainty. Social media has accelerated this liquidity to a frenetic point. Trends, identities, and relationships are more volatile than ever, generating deep existential anxiety. We have outsourced our memory and our relationships to corporations. We trust a platform to remind us of birthdays, store our photos, and maintain our connections. This makes us incredibly vulnerable. If the platform changes its rules or disappears, a part of our social life goes with it. The price of this supposed convenience is subtle but immense control. Platforms don't just host our digital lives, they structure them. They determine who we interact with, what news we see, what ideas are presented to us. They are the silent architects of our perceived reality. Resisting doesn't mean becoming a digital hermit. It means diversifying. not putting all your identity and all your work on a single platform. It means building your own website, your own email list, creating communication channels that don't depend on the benevolence of an algorithm you can't control. The true measure of success in the digital age might not be the size of your audience, but the strength and quality of your connections. 10 followers with whom you have a genuine dialogue can be more valuable than 1,000,000 who only see you as another entertainment product in their infinite feed. Finally, we must advocate for more human-centered technological design. Platforms that are optimized not for attention extraction, but for user well-being. Systems that foster reflection instead of reaction, deep connection instead of superficial interaction. Technology isn't the problem, its current business model is. The climax of this reflection is realizing that meritocracy is the most brilliant marketing narrative of our time. It's a story we tell ourselves to justify our dedication to a system that wasn't designed for our benefit. It makes us feel in control, when in reality we are giving up control. Every time we strive to go viral, we are working for free to consolidate these platforms' attention monopoly. We strengthen the very system that creates conditions of precariousness and anxiety for us. It's a trap that's hard to escape because it disguises itself as an opportunity. The real disruption isn't creating the next viral video. The real disruption is finding ways to create, connect, and live that don't depend on this centralized validation system. It's an immense challenge, but it's the only path towards true digital sovereignty and sustainable well-being. Questioning digital meritocracy isn't being pessimistic. It's being realistic. It's an act of empowerment that allows us to make more informed decisions, protect our mental health, and perhaps begin to build an internet that fulfills its original promise of being a tool for human emancipation, not for its control. The ultimate cost is the erosion of trust. Trust in institutions, in media, and even in one another. When everything is a performance and every interaction is mediated by an algorithm, authenticity becomes suspect, and cynicism becomes the default mode of operation. Attention isn't just an economic resource, it's a cognitive resource. By saturating us with stimuli and demanding constant reaction, the system depletes our capacity for deep thought, concentration, and even boredom. And it's in boredom and silence where creativity often arises. We have entered into a Faustian bargain. We've given technology access to the most intimate corners of our psyche in exchange for connection and visibility. But the price, as always in such bargains, is higher than it initially seemed. We are paying with our inner peace. The solution isn't one grand action, but thousands of small acts of daily resistance. Choosing to read a book instead of endlessly scrolling, having a face-to-face conversation without phones at the table, supporting a small creator with a personal message instead of just a like. These are gestures that reclaim our humanity. The narrative of meritocracy isolates us, making us believe our struggle is individual. But when we talk about these problems, when we share our experiences of exhaustion and frustration, we realize we are not alone. Our malaise isn't a personal failing, it's a symptom of a sick system. The success they sell us is a horizon that recedes as we advance. There's always a new milestone to reach, a new follower count, a new trend to master. It's a race without a finish line, designed to keep us running in perpetuity, generating value for others. We need algorithmic literacy. Just as we learn to read texts, we must learn to read the systems that curate our information. Understanding why we see what we see is a fundamental survival skill in the 21st century. It's the basis of critical thinking in the digital age. The design of these platforms exploits well-known psychological vulnerabilities: loss aversion, the need for belonging, social validation. It's not a fair fight. We are competing with armies of engineers and psychologists whose job is to keep us hooked. Recognizing this isn't an excuse, it's a realistic assessment of the battlefield. The myth of digital meritocracy is dangerous because it convinces us that inequalities are fair. If someone is poor or invisible, it's because they didn't try hard enough. This logic ignores structural barriers and privileges and fosters a less empathetic and crueler society. The true measure of a society isn't how it treats its winners, but how it supports everyone else. A healthy digital network wouldn't be one that creates a few viral superstars, but one that allows millions of people to maintain sustainable and meaningful communities around niche interests. So in the end, the question isn't just who defines success, but what kind of success do we want to build? Do we want success based on ruthless competition and empty metrics, or one based on collaboration, meaning, and genuine well-being? The choice, though difficult, is still ours. This system has made us addicted to novelty. Infinite scrolling is a constant flow of new stimuli, making it difficult to appreciate things that require time and patience. Art, deep relationships, knowledge. Everything truly valuable is devalued by the culture of immediacy. Privacy has become a bargaining chip. We voluntarily offer our data, our thoughts, and our most personal moments in exchange for the possibility of being seen, of being relevant. We have normalized a level of surveillance that would have been unthinkable in any other era of history. When your work is your passion, it's easy to be exploited. Creator culture takes advantage of people's love for their art. They tell you that if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. But burnout is real, and unpaid labor is still labor, no matter how passionate you are about it. Silence and empty space have become uncomfortable. We fill every free moment with content, with podcasts, with videos. We have lost the ability to be alone with our own thoughts. And it's in that inner space where we process the world and develop our own voice. Critical thinking is our best defense. Before every piece of content, before every trend, we must ask, who benefits from this? What is being sold here? What emotion is trying to be provoked in me? Being a conscious consumer is being an empowered user. Digital success, as defined, is a mirage in the desert. It draws you in with the promise of water, but exhausts you in the chase. The true oasis is the community you build, the knowledge you share, and the integrity you maintain along the way. That is real, that endures. It's not about rejecting technology, but about mastering it. About using it as a tool for our own ends, instead of becoming a tool for technology's ends. It's about putting humanity first, always. Technology should serve life, not the other way around. Cancel culture and extreme polarization are byproducts of a system that rewards strong emotional reactions. The algorithm doesn't distinguish between a healthy debate and a shouting match. It only sees interaction. And because of that, it often amplifies the worst of our nature. Reclaiming control starts with small things. Turning off notifications, setting schedules for checking social media, following people who challenge you intellectually, not just those who entertain you, curating your digital feed as if you were curating your own mind, because that's exactly what you're doing. Perhaps the greatest price we pay is imagination. By being immersed in a constant flow of content created by others, we have less space to create our own internal worlds. The system gives us so much to watch that we risk forgetting how to imagine for ourselves. Digital meritocracy isn't a broken system. It functions exactly as it was designed. But it was designed for the interests of the platforms, not for the interests of humanity. Our job is to recognize this and start imagining and building fairer, healthier, and more human alternatives. In summary, the promise that only merit will lead you to success in the digital world is a half-truth, and a half-truth is often the most effective lie. It's a veil that hides the complex power structures, algorithmic biases, and the high psychological cost that defines the current ecosystem. Understanding the trap of digital meritocracy isn't meant to discourage us, but to liberate us. It allows us to play the game smarter, protect our well-being, and most importantly, start defining success on our own terms. Awareness is the beginning of autonomy. Thank you for joining me in this deep and necessary reflection. Navigating this digital world is the great challenge of our generation, and doing so with open eyes is the first and most important step. I sincerely appreciate your time and attention. If this analysis has provided you with value, subscribe to uncover more hidden truths about our world. And now the question is for you. Do you believe digital success is real, or is it a well-constructed illusion? Let me know your theory in the comments. Let's talk about it.